Hey, what is up, mortals? It is SBurkVA here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 11 of What If Deku Had a Regen Quirk. I just wanted to greet you guys by saying sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. And so, we begin. Midoriya and Todoroki screamed in unison.
Ida!
The hero killer stood atop Ida's limp body, his sword embedded into his back. Ida let out a weak warning.
Run away.
Please. Midoriya cried out.
Stain! Stop! That's my friend! You can't kill him!
Stain scoffed.
Some friends you have. This kid tried to enact some petty vengeance against me instead of being a hero and saving Native.
Midoriya's eyes shifted to Ida in disbelief.
Just let him go. I promise we won't tell anyone.
Stain visibly looked disgusted and replied,
You're protecting fake heroes now? That makes you just as bad as they are.
Ida interjected as he cried,
You killed my brother. Ingenium. He wasn't a fake hero. He inspired me to be a hero myself.
Stain laughed coldly.
And what kind of hero did you turn out to be? One that murders to give an eye for an eye? You're one step away from turning out like me.
Hearing this, Ida began to well up in tears.
I just wanted to avenge my brother. This is the entire reason I targeted him. Your whole family only cares about prestige. You only care about passing scores and doing what's told, right, Poindexter? You don't have a heroic bone in your body. You can see a little girl crying on the street, and you'd pass her because your objective could be to defeat a villain that other heroes have covered. You don't go out of your way to help people. You only care about fulfilling your own propaganda and family legacy.
Midoriya hated to admit it, but Stain was right. He remembered how Ida acted in the entrance exams, how he ignored Uraraka and left her to get crushed so that he could gather more points despite having more than enough to pass. How Ida didn't comprehend the fact that Midoriya saved her out of instinct, and not some sort of thought-out 4D chess move for entrance exam points. How he gave up internships with high-ranking pros to intern with a hero in Hosu, just to take revenge. Stain dug the blade deeper into Ida's back. No matter what the circumstances, murder without reasonable cause certainly isn't justified. Midoriya has tried to understand Stain's ideology, and he does agree with the Foundation. Hero society is corrupted to its core, and very few are real heroes. Midoriya may be hesitant to say that All Might is the perfect hero after the one-for-all situation, but he can admit that he can name more heroes that have controversies than those without any. Killing the fake heroes isn't going to solve anything. Midoriya was already rushing Stain with his katanas drawn.
You think you stand a chance against me? I tell you everything I know, and do you think I wasn't going easy on you? I can and I will kill you, as many times as I want.
Todoroki aided Midoriya by standing back and sending a wave of ice toward the hero killer. Stain's dodging pattern was unpredictable, as each one of his moves could branch out to dozens of other possible fighting positions. The villain leapt to the right, and Midoriya's blade followed, the sharp edge barely missing his flesh by a hair's length. Stain leapt off the alleyway's wall and held out his sword in front of him. Midoriya saw flames race toward the hero killer. The seasoned fighter maneuvered out of Todoroki's blast radius of fire and refocused his attacks. Midoriya can be left for later. What mattered was getting rid of the kid who could actually do some damage. Stain feigned a head-on strike at Midoriya, and when the amateur hero prepared to counter with a strike of his own, Stain took the moment to throw various knives at Todoroki. Caught off guard, one of the knives grazed his cheek. Ida yelled out a warning. Don't let him get the knife with your blood on it. He can paralyze you with his quirk. Todoroki turned around to see the knife behind him, but he should have known better than to turn his back to his enemy. The dual quirk user dove to grab the knife before the villain did, but what he didn't account for was the fact that he had blood on his face as well. Stain dashed, and his tongue was mere millimeters away from Todoroki's cheek. Just in time, Todoroki's fireside emitted a strong blaze to get the hero killer away from him. Midoriya followed suit, aiming a well-timed blow at the back of his former mentor's head, but Stain's honed instincts allowed him to react faster. With a single motion, the carefully sharpened blade sliced right through Midoriya's wrist, and his dismembered hand fell useless to the ground alongside one of his weapons.
Shit!
Midoriya yelled out, watching his flesh cover up the cut-off point as new bone and muscle grew to replace the lost limb. Ida suddenly appeared from behind Midoriya and delivered a powerful kick at Stain, which forced the assailant to back off momentarily. Despite the direction the battle was going, Midoriya said,
Ida, take Native! And go get help!
Ida tried to interject, but they didn't have time to argue while Stain was backing Todoroki into a corner.
Just go! Todoroki and I can hold him off, but we need backup.
The speedster hesitated, but followed Midoriya's command, the flames in his engines burning a bright blue as he ran off with Native in his arms. By the time Ida left, Todoroki had been overpowered and his body fell paralyzed onto the floor. Midoriya looked down to see his severed wrist had returned, so he held out his remaining katana with both hands and prepared to defend. Just like their training, the two stood on opposite ends of an arena, waiting for the other to make the first move. In this case, it was Midoriya. He ran and picked up one of Stain's knives from the ground and threw it at the hero killer's skull. Unlike during his training, his aim was spot on, as Stain caught it in between his middle and forefinger, dead center between his eyes. If they weren't fighting it out to the death at the moment, Stain would have been proud. At least his training wasn't for nothing. Midoriya approached and brought his blade down upon Stain like an axe to a log. Stain jumped into the air to dodge, and a barrage of knives rained down like a thunderstorm. Midoriya screamed as he grabbed at his throat with his hands. Blood erupted from the cut vein like an erupting volcano. Stain gladly let the blood land in his mouth like catching raindrops during a drizzle. He licked his lips, satisfied.
You know, you have some of the worst tasting blood I've ever had. It's bitter as hell, it stings like alcohol. Real alcohol is much better, though.
He laughed. The cut on his throat closed up as Midoriya felt his blood boil, metaphorically. He usually tried to keep a level head, but Stain was especially getting on his nerves. He thought for even just a moment that there was a resemblance of reason within him. But now it was clear that he was bloodthirsty. And rather crazy. He wanted to do something, but his biggest fear was coming true. He was physically unable to fight back because he only had a defensive quirk. His only ally was laying paralyzed on the ground, and he could do nothing to fight back. Midoriya wasn't looking too good. His hero costume had already been tattered after a week straight of training, but he looked especially worse for wear. Midoriya muttered to himself. Well, at least I know that somehow I will survive this. Would have been nice if future me told me how, but beggars can't be choosers. Stain attempted to slash Midoriya across the chest, but he blocked both katanas with his singular one. He strained against the hero killer, and his mind tried to think of answers. Quirk evolution sure would be nicer right about now. Come on, buddy. I'm in a life-threatening situation. Stain's spiked shoe kicked him right in the gut, causing him to fall back. The hero killer towered over Midoriya, and like a light switch, everything clicked. Back in the infirmary. Hey, UA. Recovery Girl said that my quirk factor is a mutant type since it exists in every cell of my body. When I was in the vestige space, the first told me that my quirk attacked One for All like it was a virus. My future self told me I'd have a quirk awakening soon. Midoriya's face lit up as if a literal light bulb manifested above his head. My quirk exists in my cells. My cells are currently in Stain's digestive system. My cells attack foreign microorganisms like it would a virus. Suddenly, Stain clutched his chest as he felt his heartbeat start to increase in pace. The beats were quick and irregular, and it felt like the organ threatened to jump out of his chest with each beat. His breathing became short and quick, and he wobbled in place before holding his weight against a wall. The world was spinning, and there was a strong, bitter, and metallic taste in his mouth that overloaded his already overwhelmed senses. He looked at Midoriya as he collapsed onto the floor. The hero killer's body was being destroyed from the inside out. His cells were being destroyed by Midoriya's. It was the most painful thing he'd ever experienced. All he could do was writhe helplessly on the floor, with no chance of relieving the pain. Despite the hero killer feeling and looking like death, Midoriya had a controlled hold over him. He wasn't going to kill him, nor torture him any more than necessary. He just needed to keep him incapacitated. Todoroki was able to use the time Stain was down to recover, and he stood by Midoriya's side as he witnessed what was happening. Are you doing this? How? I guess my blood is poisonous to others. The sound of sirens rapidly approached alongside footsteps. Ida skidded around the corner as his calf engine stalled, and behind him was a swarm of police cars. The sight of backup was overwhelmingly relieving, and Midoriya had to actively resist collapsing onto his knees in exhaustion. Midoriya and Todoroki ran up to Ida, and dozens of armed officers charged into the alleyway. A detective in a trench coat escorted the students into the ambulances for medical care. Only, as the students were taken away, several gunshots were fired, which caused the detective to rush back to the scene. Several officers had throwing knives embedded into their bulletproof vests, but most importantly, the hero killer was gone. This video is sponsored by ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN allows you to change your IP address, making it harder to track and securing your privacy. In addition to providing safe passage through the web, you can also expand the reach of your favorite streaming services like Disney+. If you're from the United States, you won't be able to watch any of the MCU and Sony Spider-Man movies. But by switching your location to Japan, you can access them whenever you want. Check out the link in the description to get 3 extra months when you purchase the 12-month subscription plan at $99.99 a year. This deal is for a limited time, and thanks to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this video. Later that already long night, the students were treated and mandated to stay a night in the hospital. The detective told them that they weren't in trouble, and he handed them a non-disclosure agreement form. After signing it, the students were forbidden to disclose any information about the events of that night. Before the detective left, Midoriya asked, "What happened with Stain? Was he arrested?" The detective sighed. "That's confidential information. Sorry." He turned around and left. After not getting an answer, Midoriya let out a frustrated sigh and fell back onto his bed. He didn't need to stay in the hospital or be hooked up to all these machines. He needed to go back out there and get closure. Stain was such a complicated person that it made Midoriya's head spin. He just spent his entire week with a serial killer and thought that he could teach him how to be a better hero. Well, in a way, he somewhat did. Midoriya looked off to the side at the remains of his hero costume and new katanas. Midoriya's head snapped toward the sound of Todoroki's voice. "Why were you talking to the hero killer like you knew him?" Midoriya had to play it cool and not let the truth slip. "He, kidnapped me?" Todoroki didn't miss a beat and replied, "It sounded like you were on friendly terms, though." Midoriya racked his brain for a response and he blurted out, Stockholm Syndrome?" Midoriya internally smacked himself on the head as he thought, "Really? That was the best response you could think of." There was an awkward pause, but then Todoroki finally spoke. "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Midoriya. I hope you receive proper therapeutic services to help you overcome this." Thank all things holy that Todoroki was as dense as steel and that Ida was already dead asleep. Midoriya walked into Miruko's hero agency the next morning after getting discharged. "Ultimatum, what the hell happened to you?" Miruko shouted. "I got into so much trouble since I lost you. Where did you go?" "The hero killer kidnapped me." Midoriya had already given the police a fabricated story of getting kidnapped the night before. The story went that he stole Stain's weapons to use against him to escape. Somehow, he got away with it. His mother almost didn't let him go back to school the next day. Midoriya felt guilt swell up in his heart, and he realized that he was done with secrecy, so he told her what really happened. She, of course, broke down into tears, but he was able to calm her down eventually. Even after coming clean about the experience and getting his mom's opinion on the matter, Midoriya was still conflicted about whether what he did was the right choice or not. Inko had insisted that it was undeniably the dumbest and riskiest thing any sane person could have done, and she was right. But, as always, Midoriya's overactive brain kept creating possible scenarios of what would happen if he made different choices. If he had not chosen to stay with Stain, would Ida have been killed since no one was looking for the hero killer that night? Would he have learned something more valuable from Miruko? After a restless night, well, it did what it usually does and became morning. At school, everyone was talking about their experiences at their internship. Some, however, were mindlessly bantering about current news. "Man, did you hear? The hero killer murdered the hero native 2 nights ago and he still hasn't been found," Kaminari exclaimed. "Honestly, I heard a lot of nasty stuff native has done. In a way, Stain is kind of right, you know? There's a lot of fake heroes out there and..." Kaminari went silent as he saw Ida staring daggers right through his soul. "Holy shit, Ida, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean, Jiro hit the back of Kaminari's head while whispering a harsh, "Idiot." Ida didn't say anything. Out of the trio, he was the most shaken up from the events, losing his brother, almost dying himself, and getting his character berated by the same man who killed his brother. It would be an understatement to say that it was a lot. Despite all that, he seems to have found a new sense of identity after the fight. He wasn't quite ready to go back to normal, but baby steps can take someone far. The conversation eventually picked up again, and Uraraka asked, "Hey, Midoriya, how was your internship?" "Oh, I had a lot of fun. I learned a lot from, Miruko," Midoriya stuttered. Amid the class's excitement, the news that Aizawa broke to them completely changed the mood.
Your midterms are in 2 weeks.
Thank you all for indulging yourselves in all this information thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, if you're in the mood for some great storytelling, We the Celestials has got you covered. Our We the Celestials, My Hero Academia, Naruto What If channels retell the story of their namesake anime with a twist. Check it out if you're interested. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details can be found in the description down below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, then I'd like to extend you an invitation to join the team. The only caveat being that we only accept members from 16 years and up to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interests by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video. So thank you all for watching, and have a great day.